was concentrated into a limited time frame. People were forced to absorb a lot of legal information in a very short space of time. And some of the questions were that forced people, or even ordinary people, to take an interest in the Constitution in a way that they had never done before, were to do with issues of land. Rumors or stories that were spread that if your land is beyond a certain acreage, it may be taken away or may be taxed. Men were very worried about alimony and what about two wives and more? Those kind of issues caused at the local level a tremendous amount of interest to be generated with regard to the Constitution. With regard to magistrates and judges right now, there's certain about 16 pieces of legislation that must be passed within 1 year of the 27th of August, and some of them touch on the judiciary. I should like to think that the magistrates and judges are reading those elements of the Constitution and those aspects of legislation that affect them fairly closely, because they're pretty concerned about how it's going to affect them. So that's been the effect of this whole process on us. Some of us, the Constitution was a massive document that really was unreadable. It was condensed by NGOs, by other organizations, because it affected us in different ways. So it was localized more than any other constitution that we've had before. The question was asked about the cultural, civil society and the role of culture in reconciliation in particular. And one of the most interesting aspects was, one of the most interesting debates in the run-up to the referendum was to do with the role of, there was a whole chapter on culture in the Constitution that was in the cultural fraternity. The artists engaged in very, very robustly. They met, they sat, they met with a committee of experts and contributed in a very, very active sort of way. That's at the higher level. At the grassroots level, I mean, one of the things that has happened in Kenya since 2007 has been a dramatic, organic devolution that has already taken place of power from the center. A lot of it sometimes antisocial, in terms of youth gangs that have gained currency that they did not have before. It's not unlikely that we will have maybe even the leaders or former leaders of youth gangs becoming maybe members of parliament, that kind of thing in the next elections. It is not unlikely. But similarly, we've had cultural organizations, if they can be described as that, committees of elders, a proliferation of them across the country being established to engage with the contradictions that came out of the violence of 2007, 2008. We have, well, many of them are ethnic, so you have, I think you have a Luo Council of Elders, we have several Kikuyu Councils of Elders, we have ethnic councils of elders which had become defunct, rose to the fore once again after the post-election violence. Now, whether this is a positive or negative thing is something that has been debated intensely. And when one follows the debates that are taking place within these groupings, it's a question that can still be asked. But there are realities, and they are engaging, especially now when you talk about devolution to support 7 counties. The groups that have been most quick to organize are these groups that call themselves cultural organizations. Ethnic cultural organizations have been most quick to organize, mobilize, and engage around these new realities. So the elements of the new constitution vis-a-vis devolution, in my opinion, that will move more quickly than the letter of the law. Simply, yes, some of them may end up being, I mean, we have about over $1 billion per year is going to go to these counties. It's over 100 billion Kenyan shillings supposed to go to 15% of all revenue. If the money doesn't go, yes, the county governor may be tempted to wave his machete at the center to show that, if you don't send me the cash, I will expel certain groups, I will take it. But at the same time, there are other forces at play. People have organized at the county level very, very rapidly. It's, for me, it's very early days. It's changing the nature of identity. And I don't want to sound too aspirational, but we haven't yet come to terms with the fact, and this may be reversed, you know the history in Kenya, but certain provinces have disappeared. And provinces for a long time were linked to identity and ethnic identity. Rift Valley was for this group, Central Province was this group, Western Province was that group. It's gone. As we rejig ourselves to the new reality, I should like to think that something positive will come out of it. I am forced to be positive because I'm a Kenyan. And I'm there. And we cannot, I mean, it is possible that it could go belly up. We can't afford for it to go belly up. The prospects are too horrific for us to contemplate. I'll touch again on the role of the arts, and I'll focus primarily on popular culture. One of the most interesting aspects of Kenyan media over the past 6 to 7 years has been what one would describe as a very dramatic fragmentation of media. Lots of local FM vernacular radio stations. That is where, again, power has been evolved too in terms of voice. People listen to the headlines on national broadcasters, on national stations, but for the interpretation, as used to happen in Tanzania, they listen to the vernacular station for the interpretation and for the debate, and it has created a space for popular culture to play a positive role. It can also play a very negative role. The problem with vernacular radio is that everybody thinks vernacular radio, they think of Radio Miles Collins in Rwanda, and that has become stuck in the imagination of people. In my opinion, it's a space that we cannot abandon. You abandon it, you leave it to the warlords. It's a space that must be entered into by civil society because it's the one that speaks to the majority and in a language that they understand, and it's very, very, very vibrant in Kenya.
Thank you. Michaela, do you want to say anything about
I suppose I might just comment on the cultural and civil society thing. Just two developments which I had mixed feelings about was when my book about John was published in Kenya, the incredible piracy that took place with the stolen PDF, which had nothing to do with me, but and was caused me huge dismay. But I think you know, in its way, it was a massive tribute to the activity, the intellectual ferment that is out there on the internet by Kenyan groups, Kenyan diaspora, a lot of them, but also people within the country, people in South Africa, Canada and America, discussing the future of Kenya and wanting to read a book that couldn't be bought locally. And then the other thing that I found very amusing, because I am actually an atheist, was to have the National Council of Churches in Kenya drawing up a 40-page Bible study guide in which they sort of were drawing out lessons from the stories that I was telling and from the Bible. And I thought, I mean, you know, how very interesting. I mean, for a church to decide that was an interesting debate to enter in. And it's, again, it's on the internet. These are, you know, we've moved on so fast and so far in terms of the kind of vibrancy of debate that's taking place and the way it uses modern technology and uses it so effectively. So those were just two examples that affected me, but I thought it really showed that you know, you can't stop this stuff taking place. It's just so fast and so energetic.